Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, November the 22nd. We got a 10-gamer today. We're going to take a first look at this 10-game slate, go position by position, and I'll hit on the guys that stand out to me the most at each position. We will talk about Draftkings and Yahoo. As we go, we'll build out a core of 5 plays. These are 5 plays that I see the night before that really catch my eye given Draftkings pricing, and then we'll do Yahoo specific 5 as well. Just a few things before we get started, guys. As always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, about 50% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed, so I would appreciate it if you're a part of that 50% that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you click that notification bell as well, so that way you get notified every time I upload. And if you haven't yet, you can follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. I'm very active over on Twitter. You guys can feel free to give me a follow over there. If you ever need to contact me or if you want to message me, you can do so on Twitter. But let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for today. So we got 3 stud options here over 10K on DraftKings at least. We got James Harden, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. Harden is 11,700 in a matchup against the Clippers. Luka is 11,400 in a matchup against the Cavs. And LeBron is 11,300 getting to face the Thunder. So just looking at these 3 guys and choosing between these 3, my favorite here is definitely Luka. Even though he's gotten priced up to 11,400, which is a price he really hasn't seen this season. He's been under like 10.5 pretty much all season. The most expensive he's been since this game was last slate against the Warriors, where he was 10,400. He put up 77 DraftKings points in 26 minutes in that game. Luka's just been absolutely awesome this season. He's one of the best players in the NBA right now. Seems like the dude's getting you a triple-double almost every night. Choosing between him, Harden, and LeBron, I would definitely prefer Luka. I think Luka has the better matchup out of all 3 guys. Getting to face a really bad Cavs defense. I believe Luka's already faced the Cavs once this season. He has. He put up 73 DraftKings points against them. Had 29, 15, and 14 in 33 minutes. If I have to project Luka for like a certain amount of fantasy points, I'd probably project him for about at least like mid-60s in fantasy points. I mean, we can just look at his numbers so far this season with the Mavericks. They're pretty insane. Pretty sure his usage rate is almost close to 40%. His fantasy points per minute, I'm pretty sure they're close to 2 as well. 35.4% usage rate, averaging 1.65 fantasy points per minute in 480 minutes this season. Luka's one of the best stud plays on the slate. He's my favorite stud between him, LeBron, and Harden. We're going to talk about Anthony Davis later on in the video. I think given the savings, I really like Anthony Davis at only 10,100. But if we go over to Yahoo, that's where I definitely like Luka. Just comparing his price to all the other studs, you have Harden as the most expensive stud at 58. Then you have Luka at 52. LeBron, Davis, and Drummond are all at 51. And then you have like Kawhi, Embiid, Young, Paul George. Choosing between the studs on Yahoo, Luka's definitely my favorite at $52. Obviously, it's a great matchup for him. His price tag on Yahoo is so close to the other guys. That's why I like Luka the most. Given the savings though on DraftKings, I think Anthony Davis for 1,300 cheaper makes a lot of sense, especially because he just torched this OKC team. This OKC team really doesn't have anyone that can stop Anthony Davis. Should be able to do whatever he wants in that matchup. I like Luka a lot, and if I can get Luka and Doncic, or if I can get Luka and Davis, in my lineup together, I'll definitely be trying to do that. But just looking at this slate the night before, there's not a lot of great value that I see. Like some of the better value plays we have are like Ben McLemore, and these just aren't guys I feel very confident in. Plus, a lot of guys that we've been playing for value recently have gotten priced up quite a bit. So it's going to be tough to find really good value that you like on this slate unless some injury news breaks as the day goes on Friday. That's kind of just stuff we'll have to wait and see on. But choosing between Harden, Luka, and LeBron, I definitely like Luka the most. And then you have guys like Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Ben Simmons. Russell Westbrook, 8,400. I think he's still a little bit too cheap on DraftKings at least. I mean, this is a guy that has 55, 60, 65 point upside. We saw him go for 68 DraftKings points in 34 minutes against Portland. The matchup against the Clippers is not good. I mean, this Clippers team is going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league, especially now that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both healthy. I imagine you'll probably get like Patrick Beverley guarding one of Westbrook or Harden, and then you'll probably see either Kawhi or Paul George on the other one. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup for these guys, but these 2 guys, Westbrook and Harden, they're soaking up all the usage for the Rockets. Whenever Harden's off the floor, Westbrook's numbers do see a big bump, and there is parts of the game where you're going to get Westbrook playing without Harden because of how they stagger their minutes. So 8,400, he's not the worst play in that mid-range, but I don't think he's going to be a core play for me by any means. I definitely like Spencer Dinwiddie for a little bit cheaper, and Spencer Dinwiddie's one of my favorite plays on this slate, 7,600 on DraftKings. He feels too underpriced. His price tag just hasn't caught up to the production lately. On Yahoo, I think he's one of the top plays as well at $29. So we can pull up the Knicks or the Nets usage so far this season with Kyrie Irving off the floor. We know that when Kyrie's off the floor, there's going to be some big beneficiaries, and obviously Spencer Dinwiddie is the biggest beneficiary with Kyrie off the floor. Just plays more minutes, gets more usage. 249 minutes this season with the Nets with Kyrie off the floor, 31.9% usage rate, 1.16 fantasy points per minute. We do know Karis LeVert's going to be out as well, so we can take Karis LeVert off the floor as well. I'm sure the numbers are even better for Spencer Dinwiddie. Probably not going to get much of a sample size, but yeah, 35.4% usage rate, 1.18 fantasy points per minute. So if Dinwiddie plays like 36 minutes here, which he definitely should if the game is competitive, he played 37 minutes last game against the Hornets. 36 minutes for Dinwiddie, averaging 1.19 fantasy points per minute. I mean, that's a projection of like low 40s in fantasy points, and that's just too good of a projection for 7,600. A matchup against the Kings is pretty good as well. This Kings team's not that great defensively. They're not playing as fast as they have like in previous seasons, but still, I think this is a really good spot for Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he remains underpriced on both sides, and definitely a guy that I like a ton today with Kyrie out. Just going to have to really do everything for this Brooklyn team. But other point guards you can maybe look to, I like this matchup a lot for Devontae Graham. 6,900 though is a little bit too expensive of a price tag for me to pay for him. Like, he's not going to be a core play for me by any means. I think this is going to be one of their better games to target on the slate. The Charlotte-Washington game has a 233 total with just a 6-point spread, so it's definitely going to be a good game to target. Graham on Yahoo's $25. That's where I think he's pretty appealing. You can definitely target him over there. That's probably where I would have more interest in him. He does feel a little bit too cheap over there. 6,900 on DK, though, I'm not as big of a fan of. But just looking at guys like in this mid-range, this 6K range, there's not much that really stands out. Terry Rozier was someone I liked quite a bit on the last slate against Brooklyn. He wasn't terrible in that game, but he wasn't really that good either. I mean, he played 33 minutes, had 27 DraftKings points. He was 6K on that slate. I really like that matchup for him against the Nets. I like this matchup for him as well against the Wizards. I mean, he's probably going to be guarded by Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, one of the worst defenders in the league. Terry Rozier should be able to have his way in this matchup. For 6,200, if I'm going to go to one of those like mid 6K or 5K point guards, he's definitely my favorite at 6,200. I would rather play him over guys like Conley, SGA, Kendrick Nunn, Will Barton, Marcus Smart. Like, give me Rozier over all those guys. I have a lot of interest in Rozier today, in tournaments at least. I have a feeling I'm going to be playing a lot of guys from that game just in general because of the pace of play and the high total. Rozier obviously is someone that really stands out at 6,200. Draymond Green is a pretty big injury we're going to have to watch heading into Friday night. So he's questionable as I'm recording this video on Thursday night. Don't know yet if he's going to play. He did not play in their last game. I believe it was against the Mavericks. If Draymond plays today, it's a bad matchup on the road against the Jazz. They're probably going to get blown out, but getting Draymond for 5,800, it's just too cheap of a price tag for Draymond, especially on DraftKings where you can play him at point guard, small forward. You just have so much flexibility with your lineup when rostering Draymond Green. So I like him a ton here if he's able to play. I think he's a very safe option. He's probably going to be in cash game consideration at 5,800. If he's out, I don't really want to go to any of the Warriors guys because they've kind of all gotten priced up. Like Alec Burks is 5,700. Bowman's up to 5,200. These guys are going to have to play big minutes even if the game blows out because the Warriors just don't have any other healthy bodies. But I don't think they're going to be core plays for me just given the matchup against the Jazz. I don't expect them to do much offensively. Really, the only Warrior I'm going to be targeting today is Draymond if he's able to play. But then other point guards, Dennis Schroeder had a lot of success in this matchup. The last time they faced, their most recent game against the Lakers, he's still really cheap on DraftKings at 5,500. I think Dennis Schroeder is definitely in play in that 5K range at point guard. For value, Tomas Satoransky had a pretty nice game last game against the Pistons, had 34 DraftKings points in 26 minutes. I think his minutes are going to be pretty secure with Chandler Hutchison out of the lineup. It's very likely that he closes out the game. Like, they could, I'm not sure if they have played Kobe White alongside Satoransky. I know one of the reasons Satoransky has lost some minutes this season is due to the play of Kobe White. But with Hutchinson out of the lineup, you could definitely see Satoransky and Kobe White close out the game alongside each other. So at 5,100, he's for sure an option you can go to. He's still minimum salary on Yahoo, and I think that's where I have a lot of interest in him. I mean, Satoransky just gives you too much upside to like avoid at minimum salary. It's not a good matchup against the Heat. I mean, the Heat do play fast, but they are a pretty solid defensive team. But the minimum salary price tag on Satoransky puts him firmly in play on Yahoo. Have a lot more appeal in him over there. I still think he's a good option though on DraftKings at 5,100. Like I'd probably play him over Isaiah Thomas. Even if Derek White's out today, I'd probably play him over Patty Mills as well. Shaq Harrison did start last game with Chandler Hudson out, and he had a really good game. 45 DraftKings points in 26 minutes. I mean, Harrison's up to 5K on DraftKings. Like he was minimum salary on that slate against the Pistons. Now he's up to 5K. Not going to be as good of a play today. I'd probably just rather play Satoransky for 100 more. I feel a little bit safer with Satoransky's minute. I don't think you're going to see another 35, 40-point game from Shaq Harrison. You're most likely going to get like mid to low 20s in fantasy points from him. That's probably what I would project him for. But then just looking for value plays at point guard, there's definitely a value play I want to touch on. So we're going to have to watch the status of Corey Joseph, but as I'm recording this video on Thursday night, he is questionable heading to this game Friday night. We do also know that Bogdanovich for the Kings is questionable as well. If Bogdan is out and Corey Joseph plays, I think Corey Joseph is probably one of my favorite values on the slate at 4,900. It's a pace-up spot for the Kings. If we do look at pace so far this season, the Kings are towards the bottom of the league in pace. They're ranked 27th. If we look at the top of the league, though, you do have Brooklyn playing at the 6th fastest pace. So pace-up spot for the Kings. Corey Joseph's incredibly cheap on DraftKings at 4,900. If Bogdan misses this game, it's very likely that Corey Joseph closes out the game as a starting point guard and just plays a lot of minutes here. I mean, he played 39 minutes in that last game against the Suns. He had a really good game, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 14 assists. I believe him and Bogdan closed alongside each other, which is something you like to see. Joseph's kind of been losing minutes to Bogdan recently. Like that's one of the reasons he hasn't been able to play huge minutes. He played 38 minutes in that game against Portland, but then the next two games against the Lakers and the Celtics, only 23 and 26 minutes. If Bogdanovich is out, I would expect Joseph to play pretty heavy minutes just because the Kings are pretty thin on ball handlers, and Joseph can do that. So I do like him as a value a lot today, assuming he plays. 4,900 on DraftKings. He's incredibly cheap on Yahoo. It's very close between him and Tomas Satoransky on who is my favorite value point guard. I'm going to go with Joseph right now because I feel a little bit safer with him, especially if Bogdan sits. Joseph becomes my favorite value. But if Joseph is out, you can always pivot to Satoransky, whose minimum salary on Yahoo and on DraftKings is only a few $100s more. But that's probably it for me for point guard value plays. Rondo's maybe someone you could target in tournaments. He saw his minutes to get up to 27 in that game against OKC. Same matchup today. He went for 24 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. If you're going to get Rondo playing like mid-20s in minutes off the bench, I mean, Rondo just gives you so much upside. He can easily get you a double-double in mid-20s minutes. 4,600, definitely in play as a value, but probably be more of a tournament play, not going to be a core play by any means. Let's go ahead and talk about some shooting guards now. We'll go through this position. So just looking at guys I haven't talked about, Bradley Beal, I like this matchup a lot for him against the Hornets. The Hornets just are not that good of a defensive team. Bradley Beal should be able to do whatever he wants in this matchup. We know he's going to play huge minutes every night as long as the game stays competitive, and this game should be competitive. We know Bradley Beal is going to chuck up a ton of shots. You just look at his field goal attempts these last few games, 27, 22, 26, 24. The volume is clearly there for Bradley Beal. I like him a ton on Yahoo at shooting guard. He's $43. If you can find a way to pay up for him, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, given him and Harden's price, Harden being $15 more, I would just rather play Bradley Beal at $43. But there are some really good plays like in this mid-range. I mean, you got Devontae Graham at $25, Buddy Hield at $27. You could look to Marcus Smart still feels a little bit too cheap at $19. You even got Kobe White at $16. So there's like definitely value plays here. You don't have to pay up for Bradley Beal, but if you can, I do like him quite a bit at $43 on Yahoo. I think at $9,600 on DraftKings, it's going to be pretty tough to get him into like my main lineup, especially if I'm trying to get Luka and Anthony Davis together. It's going to be pretty tough to get Beal in there. But just other shooting guards we have, like I said earlier, that Bogdanovich injury is going to be very big to watch. He's $7,600. I'm not as interested in him as if he plays today. I mean, $7,600 is a pretty expensive price tag for Bogdan. The guy obviously has a ton of upside, especially now that he's getting big minutes with De'Aaron Fox off the floor. But I can't project him for like more than 40 DraftKings points, and at 7,600, like, he's just not going to be a core play for me, even if he does play. Now, I think it's a totally different story on Yahoo. If we do look at Bogdanovich's price on Yahoo, he's a small forward over here, and he's $24. Just comparing his price to other guys around him, he's $4 less than Jaylen Brown, $5 less than Tobias Harris. He's only $1 more than Will Barton, only $3 more than Harrison Barnes. Bogdanovich would probably be one of my favorite plays on Yahoo at small forward if he's able to play today. This is a 7:30 game, so we should have the news before lock if Bogdanovich is going to be in or out. And if he's in, love him on Yahoo. Going to be a lot tougher to get him in on DraftKings, though, at 7,600. And I mentioned who I really like if he's out. If he's out, I think Corey Joseph is one of the biggest beneficiaries. But some other shooting guards that maybe stand out, really not much in this mid-range besides the guys I've already talked about, like Dennis Schroeder at 5,500, Satoransky at 5,100 you could target. For value, I think Kobe White coming off the bench makes plenty of sense at 4,900. This is a guy that just, when he's making his shots, he gives you so much upside on this price tag. Can easily go for over 30 DraftKings points when he's shooting the ball well. I mean, he took 23 shots in that game against Milwaukee. Lately, his field goal attempts have been a little bit lower, but the percentage is pretty low as well. You're going to get games where Kobe White makes 40% of his shots like he did against the Bucks, and he's going to put up a big game. Same with that game against the Knicks, 57% of his shots made, 37 DraftKings points. The only reason you're not getting big games from him recently is just because he's not shooting that well from the field. He's going out there and chucking, though, 3 for 13 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. He's going to make more shots than that every game and going to give you probably 25 to 30 DraftKings points most nights. So Kobe White, for sure, a value shooting guard you could look to. He'd probably be my favorite play under 5K. You do have Tim Hardaway, who started last game with Seth Curry out. He only played 22 minutes, but a lot of that had to do with blowout. None of the starters got big minutes in that game because the Mavericks won that game by almost 50 points. You got 27 DraftKings points from Hardaway in those 22 minutes he played. He was very hot from the field, which is something to note. I mean, he was 4 for 4 from 3, 6 for 7 from the field. He's not going to shoot that well every single game, but if Seth Curry remains out and you get Tim Hardaway starting again in a matchup against the Cavs for 4,500, he could for sure be a value play you'd look to. But I think that's it for shooting guard values that I see. I did talk about Ben McLemore at the beginning of the video. At least I think I did. 3,900 on DraftKings. He's not the worst value play today with Daniel House doubtful. Ben McLemore is expected to start with House out of the lineup. He has started multiple games this season. I know he started that game against the Clippers when House was out. He only played 23 minutes, only had 18 DraftKings points. It's the same matchup today against the Clippers. I mean, I can't project McLemore for 36 minutes because they have guys off the bench that could play over him. But he should probably play at least mid to high 20s in minutes. He's not the worst value at 3,900. I'm going to be very interested to see what some other guys are saying about McLemore. If he's projected to be high owned, that's going to be something I look at as well. What his ownership projection is going to be. If he's going to be pretty massive chalk, I would just fade that in tournaments. Probably be a fine cash play at 3,900. He's just not a guy that gives you a ton of upside, and playing alongside Harden and Westbrook is not going to help him either. But if you need a cheap 4K or 4K and below shooting guard small forward, he'd definitely be my favorite just because there's really no one else that I like under 4K. But let's go ahead and run through small forward now. So looking at the small forward position, you got LeBron, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler here. I don't think any of these guys are going to be core plays for me. Kawhi, I don't want to pay $9,500 for on this slate, especially when you have Anthony Davis for just a little bit more, especially because Paul George is healthy as well. So those two guys are kind of going to eat into each other's usage and workload. LeBron at 11,300 is not my favorite stud on the slate. I would much rather play Luka. I'd much rather save and play Anthony Davis. Jimmy Butler at 8,300 is fine. I mean, he's not a core play for me, but it is sort of a revenge game for him against the Bulls, going on the road to face his former team that he was with for a long time. I know Butler's had some revenge games in the past against the Bulls, and he's went out there and put up 60 DraftKings points. So he's a fine play, 8,300. I'd have a lot more interest in him on Yahoo at small forward. It's kind of same with Bradley Beal. I think he's easily the best shooting guard to pay up for. On Yahoo, I think Jimmy Butler's easily the best small forward to pay up for. It's just a matter of can you pay up for him? Because, I mean, honestly, if Bogdan plays, Bogdan's my favorite small forward at 24. But if I can get to Jimmy Butler at 39, I do like him quite a bit on Yahoo. Going to be pretty tough to get him in DraftKings, or get him in on DraftKings at 8,300. But some of the other small forwards we can look to, in this mid-range, Not really much stands out to me, at least as core plays. Parker's price has really plummeted on DraftKings after coming off some poor performances. This is a guy that was giving you 35 to 40 DraftKings points most nights. With John Collins out, the minutes are going to be there for him. They really have no one else that they can play at the 4 over Jabari Parker. He did foul out in that game against the Bucks, so that was kind of one of the reasons he only played 27 minutes. He did have to guard Giannis in that game as well, which was a pretty tough matchup for him. This is a much better matchup for Jabari Parker against the, against the Lions. Against the Pistons, 6,100, his price dropped $800 off of what it was in the last slate. I do like Jabari Parker quite a bit today. I think he's underpriced on DraftKings. He's pretty cheap on Yahoo as well. He still feels underpriced over there at $27. Like, just looking at the other power forwards you have, I mean, Kevin Love at 32 looks really interesting, looks very appealing, but I do like Parker at 27 quite a bit. I'd rather have him over Al Horford. I'd take him over Draymond Green. He'd definitely be my favorite power forward between like those few guys. He's pretty cheap on both sides just compared to what he should be priced. But other small forward plays, Davis Bertans is up to 5,200 on DraftKings. It's tough to pay him or play him at that price tag on this slate. He's been playing really well lately, been getting a lot of good run off the bench. I'm pretty sure he's been closing out games as well. Been shooting very well from the field, just been getting a lot of shots up. Like I mentioned earlier, this Hornets-Wizards game is going to be one of the best games to target on the slate. Bertans isn't the worst play at 5,200, but I want to talk about him on Yahoo. I think he's going to be easily a core value play for me over there. He's still dirt cheap on Yahoo, only $11. Really don't know why he's this cheap after going for at least 20 fantasy points in 4 straight games, 27, 20, 31, 33. He's played at least 24 minutes in 4 straight games as well. I'd probably have to project him for about 26, 27 minutes in this game and probably close to 30 fantasy points, and $11 on Yahoo. That's just too good of a price tag to pass up. So he's one of the top values over there. Definitely going to be a guy I lock in at power forward as a value play. A little bit tougher to get him on DraftKings at 5,200, but I'd probably play him over like the other 5K forwards you have, like Rudy Gay, Joe Harris, Bridges, Robinson. Like, I'd take Bertans over all those guys. But just talking about under 5K value plays, really the only plays I see here are guys I've talked about, like Tim Hardaway, who could be in play if Seth Curry remains out. Now, Kyle Kuzma is someone I want to talk about on DraftKings. So he is dirt cheap at 4,300. He only played 9 minutes in their last game against OKC, but he did get hurt in that game. I believe he got poked in the eye and could not return. That's one of the reasons he only played 9 minutes and had 5 DraftKings points. He was 5,300 on that slate, and now he's down to 4,300 on DK. Even with Anthony Davis healthy, you're going to get probably close to 25, 30 minutes from Kuzma off the bench. He can close out games as well. We've seen multiple times this season Kuzma has closed out games alongside Anthony Davis. It's not like they just take away minutes from each other. You'll see them go with closing lineups of like LeBron, Avery Bradley. I mean, Avery Bradley's not healthy now, but like LeBron, KCP, Danny Green, Kuzma, and Anthony Davis. Like, they could easily close out this game with that 5. So Kuzma at 4,300, especially if he's going to play mid to upper 20s in minutes, he's just too good of a value to pass up. I have a feeling he's going to be one of the best like point per dollar values on the slate. He really stands out to me on DraftKings at only 4,300. Now on Yahoo, I don't think he's as good of a play over there. If we look at, I believe he's at small forward. Okay, no, he's at power forward. You have Kuzma at $20. Like, I mean, you don't need to play Kuzma at $20. There's just better plays available on Yahoo. But on DraftKings, where he's all the way down to 4,300, Kuzma's going to be a pretty good value today, I imagine. He'd probably be one of the first value plays I look to. Just looking at this slate the night before, he's one of the guys that really catches my eye, given his price tag. But I think that's it for small forward value plays. You do have Ben McLemore at 3,900, who's a fine value today. But let's go ahead and talk about some power forwards now. So I did kind of tease Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is someone I like a lot on DraftKings today at 10,100. I just think he's way too cheap. He's way too underpriced, especially when you compare his price tags to the other studs on this slate. AD did just face this OKC team in his last game, played 37 minutes and went for 61 DraftKings points. It seems like this shoulder injury has kind of passed him. I mean, just reading this little blurb right here, the big man who's putting up impressive numbers through his first 13 games with Los Angeles reported earlier in the week that his bothersome shoulder is almost 100% healthy. So seems like AD's fully healthy right now. He looked really good in that game against OKC. He was very aggressive, took 24 shots, knocked down 54% of his shots. He wasn't rebounding as much as I would like, only 7 rebounds in that game, but still had 34 points, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 4 steals. You got 61 DK points from AD in that game. We know if the game is close, you're going to get huge minutes out of AD and LeBron. AD, if he plays 36 minutes, I'd have to project him for close to probably 60 DraftKings points. And at 10,100, he stands out as one of the top studs on the slate. And like I said earlier, I think Kuzma and AD can close out this game alongside each other. I don't think they eat into each other's minutes, so you can definitely play them together, especially given how cheap Kuzma is. So I like both of those Lakers guys, Kuzma and AD. I would definitely take AD over like Kawhi Leonard over Paul George, even when you factor in salaries. Kevin Love at 7,800 I think is firmly in play today. He's just a guy that's going to give you 40 to 45 DraftKings points most nights. I mean, Kevin Love is doing everything for this Cavs team. His usage is through the roof. He's rebounding a ton this season. He has already faced this Dallas team once, and for what it's worth, he had a pretty good game against them. Played 35 minutes, had 29 points, 8 rebounds, 47 DraftKings points. 7,800 on DraftKings, a pretty nice price. Now on Yahoo, he's only $32 at power forward. He is one of my favorite power forward plays on Yahoo. I don't think I'm going to be paying up for Anthony Davis much over here at $51, especially because you can get Luka for only $1 more. So I'm fine dropping down to Kevin Love at 32. Obviously, I love Burton as a value play at 11. Jabari Parker, I think, is underpriced still at 27. So those are kind of the guys I'm looking to at power forward on Yahoo. And on DraftKings, you can definitely play Kevin Love as well at 7,800. But now other power forward plays. Rashon Holmes, I like this matchup a lot for him just given this matchup against Brooklyn. He's up to 6,300 on DraftKings, so I don't think he's going to make it as like a core play today, but I would definitely have exposure to him if I was playing multiple lineups. We're going to talk about him and the other center in this game, Jarrett Allen, when we get over to Yahoo. You do have Holmes at 21. I think that's a much more reasonable price. Only thing that sucks is that on Yahoo, you have to play Holmes at center. He's not power forward eligible, which kind of sucks, especially because there's a lot of good centers on this slate. Like Clint Capella still feels too cheap. I like Thomas Bryant's matchup against the Hornets. I like Holmes against Brooklyn. Jarrett Allen, I really like against the Kings as well for $18. So there's a lot of centers I like. Wish I could play Holmes at power forward, but even though you can only play him at center on Yahoo, still think he's a really good play at $21. And where you can play him at power forward center on DraftKings, firmly in play at 6,300. We know how good this matchup is for centers against Brooklyn. It's just going to be a matchup we target all season. But now other power forward plays for a little bit cheaper. I mentioned Jabari Parker. I like him a ton today. At 6,100, I think he's too cheap. Larry Nance was very chalky on the last slate. He played really well with Tristan Thompson out. Tristan Thompson is expected to return for this game, so that's going to cut into a lot of Larry Nance's value, and he's not going to play nearly as many minutes. Plus, he's up to 5,500 on DraftKings, so it's hard for me to consider him a top play today. Like you have Burton's at 5,200, who I would rather play. Just looking at value at power forward, I mean, there's not much that I really like. I think if Draymond is out, then you could definitely consider Marquise Chris. I mean, he played 27 minutes last game against Dallas with Draymond out, had 28 DraftKings points. Marquise Chris will play even if it is a blowout, so, I mean, he's pretty safe at 4,700. It's not a good matchup against the Jazz, but he's just going to have to play minutes. They really have no one else that they can throw out there. So if Draymond's out, Marquise Chris is a fine value play at 4,700. But I think that's it for power forward value plays. I think we pretty much touched on everybody that I like today. So let's go ahead and move on to center now. We'll close out the video with some of my favorite center plays. So just starting off at the top of the center position, you got Embiid against the Spurs, Jokic against Boston, Drummond against the Hawks. I don't think any of these guys are going to be core plays for me today, especially because you have some other guys like in the mid-range that I like a lot. I talked about Kevin Love earlier. I think Kevin Love's going to be a pretty strong play today at 7,800. Clint Capella just continues to be a guy that I roster every slate. I love the matchup for him against the Clippers. Clippers have always been a team that struggled against bigs. Capella did have a pretty solid game earlier this season against the Clippers. Played 31 minutes, had 42 DraftKings points, had 12 and 20 with 2 blocks. Just kind of like a Clint Capella game. I mean, this dude's rebounding has been insane recently. I believe he has 5 straight games of at least 20 rebounds. Yeah, 5 straight games of at least 20 rebounds for Capella. I'm pretty sure he's top 5 in the league in rebounds per game this season. His total rebound percentage is through the roof as well for this Rockets team. So love Capella at 7,700. I like him a lot on Yahoo as well. $34. I think he is a really good center play, but we are going to talk about some of the cheaper centers that I think you can look to. But there's a lot of good plays in this mid-range at center as well. So you got Jared Allen 6,400, who we're about to talk about. I like Holmes at 6,300. I like Thomas Bryant's matchup against the Hornets, 6,600. I really like Jared Allen, though. He was someone I was very high on the last slate. He is up to 6,400 on DraftKings, so I don't think he's going to be a core play for me on DK at that price. He's still really cheap on Yahoo, though, at $18. Definitely have a ton of interest in Jared Allen over there. I talked about it in my last video, but it's pretty clear that the Nets want to give Jared Allen most of the center minutes. They do have DeAndre Jordan on the roster, but DeAndre Jordan is really only playing about 20 minutes a game, if not less. You got 27 minutes last game from Jared Allen against the Hornets. That's one of the best matchups this season to target is centers against the Hornets. He had 46 fantasy points, had 22 and 17 with 2 steals. It was a very solid game from Allen. I like this matchup for him against the Kings. The Kings are just not that good of a defensive team. Rashon Holmes is not a good defender by any means. We could easily see Jared Allen go for another big double-double, 20 and 10 from him easily. I expect him to get the minutes as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. Close to 30 minutes he should play. So at $18 on Yahoo, I really like Jared Allen today. He's a very strong play in that center range, along with Rashon Holmes at 21, Thomas Bryant at 23. Those are some of the guys I like a lot at center on Yahoo. He's a fine play on DraftKings as well, but getting priced up to 6,400 isn't going to make him a core play for me. Now, Tristan Thompson is someone I want to talk about on DraftKings. So he's down to 5,700. I mean, this guy still remains too cheap on DraftKings. Pretty much everybody played him in that last slate against the Knicks. We had Kevin Love out for that game. Everybody, including myself, was on Tristan Thompson. He felt like one of the easiest plays of the slate. He was only 5,600. He busted in that game against the Knicks, just 25 minutes, 17 DraftKings points. I'm definitely going to be going back to Tristan Thompson on DraftKings today. He's still too cheap at 5,700. This is a guy that's going to give you a double-double most nights. I mean, you look at the game log, especially to begin the season, Tristan Thompson was playing very well, getting you 20 and 10 some nights, 19 and 13, 21 and 12. He already had a pretty big game earlier this season against Dallas. Played 30 minutes and had 39 DraftKings points, 11 and 12 with 4 assists, a block, and 2 steals. If Thompson plays 30 minutes, which he should as long as this game is competitive, I have to project him for at least 30 DraftKings points, if not more. I can look at his rates so far this season with the Cavs just so we can get a true number, see what we get. I have a feeling like his rebound percentage is pretty high as well. I haven't looked at that, but so Kevin Love 425 minutes this season with the Cavs, 23.2% usage rate, 1.17 fantasy points per minute. Tristan Thompson 410 minutes played, 20.1% usage rate. I mean, Tristan Thompson's never going to be a high usage player, but he is averaging 1.1 fantasy points per minute, 17.4% total rebound percentage, which is just right there, behind Kevin Love, who's at 19.8%. So these guys are like grabbing all the boards for the Cavs, Thompson and Love. If Thompson plays 30 minutes, like I said, projecting him with the 1.1 fantasy point per minute average that he's got this season, he probably projects for almost 36 DraftKings points if he plays at least 30 minutes. And at 5,700, that's just too good of a value play to pass up. Kind of weird considering Tristan Thompson a value at 5,700, but I think he is a value today. I think he's just too cheap. He's probably going to be one of the better point per dollar projected plays on the slate, kind of along with Kyle Kuzma. But we'll close out center real quick, just hit on some other guys I see. So Cody Zeller, I love this matchup for him against the Wizards. He's 4,900 on DraftKings, which feels like a really good price tag, but Cody Zeller's minutes have just been so inconsistent lately. The last 2 minutes against Brooklyn and Toronto, he's only played 16 and 15 minutes, or the last 2 games against Brooklyn and Toronto, only 16 and 15 minutes. I thought he could put up a big game against Brooklyn, and he just didn't play a ton of minutes. I imagine with Thomas Bryant out there, they're going to need a big guy like Cody Zeller to match up with Thomas Bryant. Centers against the Wizards is a pretty good matchup as well. It's one of the matchups I usually like to target. So Cody Zeller, 4,900. I don't think he'd be a core play for me by any means, but I would definitely get exposure to him in tournaments just because of how high scoring this game should be. Should be a competitive game. You could easily get a double-double from Cody Zeller as long as he plays the minutes. Obviously, that's a big question mark, but if the minutes are there for him at 4,900, that's too cheap of a price tag for Cody Zeller. This is a guy that we were paying like $6K for earlier this season, if not more than that. Yeah, there were some slates where he was over $6K. He was like close to that earlier. So Cody Zeller, if he gets 25 minutes, he's going to be a really good play. If he doesn't, he's going to be a bust. So it's a risky GPP option, but I think there is a lot of reward there, just given his price tag. But that's really it for center value plays. You do have Marquise Chris, who you could look to if Draymond is out, but I don't think there's really any punt values that I see. Just looking at center the night before. So I think that's it for center, guys. I think that's pretty much it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. As always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Before you get out of here, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at DFSbyNoah if you have not yet. I'm very active over on Twitter. You guys can give me a follow over there if you would like. But good luck on the slate tonight, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.